YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back a day before the 2020 NFL draft, and I got my final mock draft for you guys today. 5 trades within this draft that I expect could happen here. I'm going to break it all down. If I am being completely honest, though, the real final mock draft will actually be on Twitter the day of the draft tomorrow with multiple rounds. So you're going to want to follow that Twitter. There's a link down below at Goathouse NFL. Must follow. Constantly talking football, anything about the draft. It's a must follow there. If you don't have a Twitter, go ahead and make one. We'll be live streaming during day 1 of the NFL draft tomorrow night right here on YouTube. Going to start about 30 minutes before the draft actually starts, so hopefully you can join us. 50K, that's your subscriber goal on both of our channels. You're going to want to sub to both. We'll have you covered throughout this draft and even after with a bunch of content. And then, again, any of those links that you need are down in the description or the comments. Let's see what I got here. First 8 picks. We got a couple of trades. We'll address those when we get to them. Bengals, Joe Burrow. It's got to be the pick. It would be the ultimate shocker if it wasn't. Everybody on the planet believes this will be the pick because it will be the pick. The Redskins at 2, and it gets interesting here. I think that really the draft starts here because the Redskins have been taking calls on the trade for number 2, on the for the second overall pick, and they could easily tell those teams they're not interested, or because they're taking Chase Young, but they're feeling those calls. Apparently, one team had pretty much the deal laid out. That's just sitting there ready to go, and the Redskins kind of allowed them to do that. So they could trade it. They could, but I've been back and forth. I think some teams could come up for a quarterback, but I'm really thinking for Chase Young, actually. There's a few teams I think would do that, but at the end of the day, I think they'll realize that it's going to take an insane amount, way, way, way over the value, and then maybe they'll do it. But I think they stay put and they take Chase Young, so those teams that are interested may not be able to come up and get him. The Dolphins trade with the Lions here. Let's look at the trade details real quick. I've had this trade before. I'm sticking with it. 3rd overall pick for the 5th overall pick, and the Lions also get that 26th pick, which is the last of the Dolphins' first-round picks. And then back to who I have them taking, Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm kind of back on the Dolphins Tua train. And there's a couple things to address here. I'm back on that train because I think everything we've heard in the last week or two, we kind of really started hearing more and more about Herbert possibly for them, and they're worried about Tua's injury. I'd say about a week or 2 ago is when it really started heating up. What I'm realizing is that, I always realized that could have been smoke. Now I'm realizing I think it is smoke, because why is it coming up just a week before the draft that they, worried about his injury, the injury concern? Those are things you figure out way earlier. You decide if you're concerned on a lot earlier. And I just don't see them having a guy like Herbert over Tua either. And now the new thing is that they are indeed calling the Lions about this pick. That's a fact. But it sounds like, from what we're hearing, that they want to come up and get an offensive lineman. But again, I think that is smoke. I think they do want to come up to 3. They very well could take an offensive line. If they do, I think they'll be in on either Jedrick Wills or Andrew Thomas. But I think they're kind of trying to get other teams off of the idea of trading up to the 3rd pick, so they don't have to give up the house to do it, because it might be a bidding war if other teams may want to come up. So if they kind of let it be known, we're going to trade up to 3 for an offensive lineman, it might be teams like, oh, all right, let them take the offensive lineman. That's not what we're going up for. So I just think it's Tua. I'm going back to what my feeling was from most of this process. This is going to be very interesting, though. And then I have another trade, and this one I'm hearing nothing about. We did hear the Giants would like to move back. They're targeting an offensive lineman, I believe. But what we didn't hear about was the Jags moving up. It sounds like they're collecting picks, but for me, I think it's a possibility if they see the Lions move out of the 3 spot that they can climb up to that 4 spot and take Jeff Okudah, because they already collected those picks. They want to get that sure thing corner back in their team, because they do need multiple corners as it is. So they want to get that sure thing corner. So I view this as very realistic. And the deal would be, the 4th overall pick goes to the Jaguars. The Giants get the 9th overall pick, so that's a first-round swap there. The Giants will actually receive a 2nd-round pick with that, on top of that. So that'd be great for the Giants. They can move back, still get who they want. I've kind of talked about this on Twitter a while ago. Like, what if Yannick Ngakoue could be involved in a Giants-Jags swap? So maybe Ngakoue instead of that 2nd-round pick. That'd be pretty wild. A lot of things have to happen, but that's something I would look out for here. So back to the mock draft here, and I do have the Jags getting Jeff Okudah. So they hop the Lions. They take Jeff Okudah, cornerback from Ohio State. They get their corner. They had the sure thing Jalen Ramsey for a while. Now they get some view Okudah as a sure thing prospect here in the cornerback position. The Lions at 5, so we saw them already swap with the Dolphins. They take Derrick Brown, which they could be in on Derrick Brown over Okudah. Most people think Okudah, but they already could be in on Derrick Brown. They just been searching for that interior defense lineman to stop the run, also get after the quarterback, and they've been missing that for so long. And they finally get that here. And for them, they just got such a lack of a pass rush last year, and the cornerback play was pretty bad, but the corners also had to cover for so long because they didn't have much pressure, and it's definitely non-existent from the interior. And they get rid of Slay, they get Okudah back, so it's kind of like you're starting from square one again. So I think they'll view it that way as well, so they may be happy with Derrick Brown in here, kind of helping them in multiple ways, improve in multiple ways here. And then the Chargers go Justin Herbert. I was talking about on Twitter this morning, they could be a team and I believe they may be, calling the Redskins, and I can see them going up to that second pick for Chase Young or Justin Herbert. I think they could be in on Young, and I still think they could try to make that happen. If they don't, and they still could take Herbert. I think those who are the guys that are on top of their board, Chase Young and Justin Herbert. So that would be, I haven't heard anybody say that they could trade up to 2 to get Young. But that is something that's in the back of my mind and something I would look out for. But they do want a quarterback that fits their system for the long term, even though they can win now, and that would be Justin Herbert for them. I would not agree with this pick, but I feel like it's going to happen depending on how the top 5 picks shake out, because everything can change everything. I'd probably go Isaiah Simmons here. Panthers, sounds like they may want to trade back. When I try to identify who they can trade back with, what teams do I come up with? I come up with the Falcons and maybe the Buccaneers. And those are 2 division rivals, and I wouldn't rule out them trading with division rivals there. I hate predicting trades as it is because they're so unpredictable, and you get one wrong, it changes everything. So I'm definitely not going to predict division teams to trade here. But to be clear here, I do think the Panthers are a candidate to trade back. But Isaiah Simmons, it's very tough to pass on. Very tough to pass on at this point. An elite player in this draft, top 3 on my board, should be everyone's board. Just too tough to pass on. The Cardinals, I've been saying they're a team that could trade back, and it comes out, I think it was this morning, that they're a team that they're taking calls. They would like to trade back. And there's a couple partners I can find with here. We could think, talk about the Falcons could trade up here. The Buccaneers can trade up here. But what I ended up, Jedrick Wills, I don't think is supposed to be here at this point, and it's a perfect right tackle for them. So I just don't think they can pass. I just really don't think they can pass on a guy like that. So I think if he's on the board, they hang up the phone. We're not taking those deals that maybe we laid out earlier. They take Jedrick Wills, so that was the route I went with here. So that's the first 8. We're moving on to the next 8 here. We got the Giants move back to 9. They take Andrew Thomas. So a little bit of a risk because, there's some fans that maybe want Jedrick Wills, some want Isaiah Simmons. So they move back to 9. They missed out on both of those. But I believe, it wouldn't shock me if they took any 4 of those top tackles, even Wirfs or Becton. But I feel that they're very high on Andrew Thomas, and they can trade back and still get him. So Gettleman gets the guy he may be high on. And that's Andrew Thomas from Georgia at pick number 9. They gained a second-round pick. We saw that in the trade details already. And the Falcons will swap with the Browns here. So we're hearing about the Falcons possibly moving up in the top 10 for either a corner or possibly Javon Kinlaw. There's rumors they can move up in the top 5. I think they'll take those calls. I think they'll make those calls. I don't think they'd be able to pull that off, though. And I would recommend not. Trading the house for a corner, I'm just not a big fan of that, while the Falcons have more needs than just corner. So the Falcons and the Browns swap picks here, and we can see the trade details. It is, pretty complex one here, actually. So a 10th overall pick and a 16th overall pick swap. So the Browns move back 6 spots. The Browns also gain a second-round pick. So the way you look at it here is the Browns move back 6 spots. They gain a second-round pick. Browns are getting a little more value out of that at this point. So what they do is swap a 3rd and a 4th, so the Falcons will climb up into the 3rd instead of picking 4. The Browns do not have a 4th-round pick, but in this scenario, they do. So that would be the trade details, in my opinion, there for the Falcons and the Browns in this deal. Then we see the Falcons take C.J. Henderson. They take that corner that they're rumored to be in on. A corner that has a lot of upside. You see the traits are there. He could struggle at first. So I wouldn't love it if they trade. I would not like them taking Henderson this early, trading up for him, but I think it's very possible, and I'm predicting here. And to kind of move ahead of the Jets, Raiders, Niners, who Henderson could be going to, and he definitely could fit those teams. So the Falcons move up to 10, take C.J. Henderson. The Jets, another one of those teams I'm back and forth. They're going to take a receiver, they're going to take an offensive lineman, receiver, offensive lineman. I think if Tristan Wirfs on the board here, I think they take Tristan Wirfs. They play him at right tackle here at 11. So that was the pick I'm feeling at the moment in this scenario. The Raiders at pick 12, maybe a little bit of a shocker. I kind of wake up this morning and really just thinking about this every single pick, and I just feel that Henry Ruggs will be the first receiver off the board. Especially if the Raiders are picking. I just think they view him as the safest pick. I think most teams will actually view Ruggs as the safest pick. CeeDee Lamb's my number one receiver. The downside of him, he didn't really play against any press. Corners played about 12 yards off the ball on him. Thing about Jeudy is he dominates man coverage, doesn't do a whole bunch against zone, and there's some slight concern with the knee injuries from some very little teams. We'll talk about him in a second. In Ruggs, I think they just think he's a plug-and-play guy with the speed that's taken over the game this year. So, and the Raiders go Ruggs in this scenario. Then the Niners get CeeDee Lamb here at 13. Too good to pass. They get their big-time receiver. Mekhi Becton falls a little bit to the Buccaneers. And there's another scenario in my head where all four of these offensive linemen are all gone within the top 10. That's definitely another realistic scenario. If the Dolphins are up to 3 like the rumored to, instead of my scenario, they're taking 2 in my scenario. Instead of that, taking offensive linemen. Then we're going to see all 4 go in the top 10, I believe. So the Buccaneers get back. Then Jerry Jeudy falls to the Broncos because of the run on offensive linemen and the interesting trades that happened here. And we heard that there's a couple teams that kind of flagged him a little bit for the past knee injury. I'm not worried about it. He will not drop past this point, so he's not really going to take a fall because of it. But the Broncos do end up with Jerry Jeudy, which feels like a best case scenario here. So interesting one here. We talked about the trade between the Falcons and the Browns. The Browns moved back to 16. They're supposed to be really high on Ezra Cleveland, and they very well could be. I don't think they take him at 16. The reason people are coming up with that is because they've met with him quite a few times. More than your average prospects. That they meet with. But with this, I'm kind of banking on a possible Trent Williams trade, and they can, if they can't get that done, they can move up with their. They move back here. They move up with their second-round pick and target Ezra Cleveland, maybe at the back end of the first round, early seconds possibility. My thinking here was Trent Williams trade is a strong possibility. And a guy like Clavon Chason with all the upside to play him opposite of Myles Garrett. Olivier Vernon is very much on the decline. He was when he was at the Giants too, and he's not going to be there for this might be the last year there. So Chason with Myles Garrett, they know there'll be a big impact defense with that. So that was the thought process here. But stuff does quite a bit has to happen actually for that to happen. But again, if they can't trade for Trent Williams, they can move around for Ezra Cleveland or whoever they may be interested in there. We see the next group of picks here. We got the Cowboys, Aj Trout, a lot of buzz. It sounds like Terrell most likely will be the third corner off the board and will most likely be a top 20 pick. I'm buying that. I think it's a little early for my liking. Not too bad. And I think that's a player the Cowboys will be in on there, Aj Terrell for Clemson. So the Dolphins, we've seen them trade up, and now they stick with 18, take Josh Jones. So the other scenario, which feels like 50-50 right now, the Dolphins do trade up for an offensive lineman, whether it's Wills or Andrew Thomas. I think it's one of the two. And then they take would be Jordan Love with this pick, perhaps. So that would be the other scenario. The Raiders take Jalen Johnson, a corner that I think they're very high on from Utah, and that I've been kind of on this one the last couple weeks, so I'm kind of sticking to that. So Javon Kinlaw dropped a little bit, mainly because the run on tackles. We see the receiver run. The corners are starting to come off too, and then there are some teams that kind of flag Kinlaw's knee as having some wear. Arthritis could pop up in the near future, and that's going to scare teams. It's not going to scare everybody. It's not going to scare anybody enough because he's that good of a talent. So I don't think he gets by this point. So the Jags in this draft grab Okudah and Kinlaw here. So that could be big for them. Eagles, I actually had this was a spot where I expected to have a trade, and it could have been either way. The Eagles really want to trade up. They really want to trade up. They're rumored to be in on CeeDee Lamb. It could be smoke. They could be in on a guy like Ruggs instead. They're kind of throwing it out there. They're in on Lamb. Or they very much can be in on CeeDee Lamb and trying to trade up. Couldn't strike a deal there. There wasn't a deal that really made a whole bunch of sense for me. None of those teams really wanted to move back this far is the way I was thinking. And then they're rumored to be, if they miss out on that, they trade back. They trade back, gain more picks, and get somebody where they're more worth the pick. But I just couldn't find a scenario for that either. And on top of that, Justin Jefferson, who maybe a day ago I didn't really think was going to be at 21, but we see Jeudy fall to the Broncos. That kind of shifts things back, and then he's here. So I think they go the Justin Jefferson route here at 21. Then I got a trade. I got the Colts trading up to the Vikings pick. There's rumors that I've been saying for a while the Colts could trade up, and it's kind of coming out that they very well could for that quarterback, or maybe it's a receiver. But then there's recent rumors that the Vikings actually could trade back. It doesn't shock me one bit because their GM Rick Spielman can't help himself doing that, and I would prefer they hold off. They already are coming into this draft with 12 picks, so I think just take the best players available here that you think fit. But they could get a lot in return because this is a sweet spot right here, and the Eagles spot is too. So one of these picks, maybe those teams will be dying to get ahead of the Jags. Maybe they're worried about the Jags taking a quarterback. But I think this is a sweet spot, so they could give up a little more than the value, not a whole bunch, though. And I got the 22nd for the 34th swap, so it's an early second. Vikings also gain a 3rd and a 4th round pick. Colts will get their very late 7th round pick back. And this very well could be for Jacob Eason as well. Like I mentioned in the past, I like Jacob Eason for the Colts, but went with Jordan Love here. Hop over the Patriots and the Saints. Take your future quarterback. Sit him behind Rivers for 1 year. It's a really good situation to be in. So that is definitely one to look out for. Like I said, maybe not specifically this spot. I think this is kind of the sweet spot, but maybe the Eagles pick, or if teams are really need to get ahead of the Jags. But then again, backtrack. If the Dolphins don't have a quarterback by the time they're on the clock at 18, or we're getting close to that, the Cowboys pick could be the sweet spot. So many different scenarios in this draft. So many different scenarios. Then the Patriots, I talked about a lot that I really love the Kenneth Murray fit there. Kind of can be that Van Noy type linebacker because he has that pass off the ball linebacker with a pass rush presence. So they go that route. The Saints, I think, will like Kenneth Murray. I went with the Jalen Reagor route. I keep thinking Rager's going to go earlier than people think. This really shouldn't be a surprise at 24, but some people still think early second, but I think it's going to go a little earlier than people think. The Saints they've shown they're getting serious about receiver. They signed Emmanuel Sanders, and that's a big signing. That's a big time signing, but at the same time, it may not. He was in and out of games a lot last year, and they still need more receivers if they're going to win it all, like their goal is for sure. It's going to be because dominant offense. So let's make this offense that dominant, this unique. So add Reagor to that group. And that offense could be scary. So I think that's kind of the thought process here for the Saints. But I would like Kenneth Murray for them if he is on the board. But you see he went a pick before. And then we go on to the last 8 picks here. So the Vikings do have 2 first-round picks. In this scenario, only had them taking 1. They go Christian Fulton, corner from LSU. So they grab that corner that we all have a feeling they could. And I brought up the scenario that they really like Mike Hughes and Holton Hill, so they may not think they need a starting outside corner right away. But most likely, I think a guy like Mike Hughes goes to the slot, and they put a guy like Fulton on the outside. Then the Lions, which this pick was traded within the Dolphins Lions trade from the beginning of this video, and I showed the trade details then. And would love this for the Lions. Take Trevon Diggs. I'm a huge Diggs fan. Corner from Alabama. So they come out of this draft with Derrick Brown and Trevon Diggs with just the first round. This is a million times better situation than taking Jeff Okudah at 3. In my opinion, and it's really not even close. So this would be ideal and very realistic in my opinion. The Seahawks take Ezra Cleveland, been on the Cesar Ruiz train for some time now, starting to think they can pass up on that interior offense lineman. They could stick, they signed Iupati back not that long ago, so they can kind of stick with their current interior. But looking at the tackles, they really could use a starter at right now, and Dwayne Brown, probably their best spot in the line, is really, he's getting up there in age, and he got that injury last year. So Really looking out for kind of now, but really the future here at the same time. So Ezra Cleveland getting some first-round buzz. That's what I went with here. Patrick Queen drops to the Ravens. This could be Jordan Brooks. This could be Denzel Mims. I mean, I can sit here and list a lot of players this could be. It could be Julian Okwara, Zach Baum, but Patrick Queen, the option here for middle linebacker for the Ravens. The Titans, I'm feeling the Titans go corner. I don't think they go pass rusher. A lot of people have them going pass rusher. I really don't think they go pass rusher. If you want to call Epinesa a pass rusher, if they take him, I'm not calling him a pass rusher. I'm calling him a defensive end, and they're 3-4. So that could be the route. I think they go corner. I think they'll like Gladney a lot. Gladney is one of the, there's that really good group of corners here. There's 9 of them. Gladney's one of those guys that can play just as good of a level on the outside and the slot. They can use a slot to replace Logan Ryan right now, and because they could need one for the future over Malcolm Butler, or because both their outside corners got hurt, you kind of get the 2-for-1 here with Gladney. So I think this is realistic. I would also look out for the Titans trading back. Forgot to mention about the Seahawks too. We know the Seahawks are always in on possibly trading back. The Titans could trade back too, because they kind of want to gain more players, more and cheaper players here, but in this draft. And that's kind of the route you take. If you want more players and you don't want to spend a whole bunch at the same time, you trade back out of the first round, you gather those picks. But I think they'll like Gladney. So Denzel Mims drops to 30. Denzel Mims in the start of this process, very start, went from like 3rd round to jumping up to 2nd. The combine hit. He went up to the 1st round. Then it kind of ended up being, don't be surprised if he's easily a top 20 pick. And now it's starting to be, he's either going to be late 1st or early 2nd. I just don't know how a guy of this talent could be second round pick. So I think late. I don't think the Packers pass on this in this specific scenario. So I put them in that route there. Denzel Mims opposite of Devontae Adams would be special out there. And then we got another trade here. The Chargers trade back in, so they declined to trade with their first pick, which they very well could, and that could change this very much. But we hear the Niners want to trade back, and I definitely think if the Chargers take Justin Herbert at 6, that they could be in on just really finding the tackle that they really need, because that's kind of that last piece they need, especially to protect their new quarterback. So they trade with the Niners. Yeah, not too much movement here. 31 to 37 isn't a whole bunch, but the Niners still grab a 4th-round pick from the Chargers here in that trade. So then the Chargers get Austin Jackson, who's getting 1st-round buzz. I prefer him early 2nd, but if you have to have him here, you may have to do this. And it's not just about jumping the Chiefs. There's a couple teams early in the 2nd that the Chargers will need to jump, so you can't just really look at that. And the Chiefs go Cesar Ruiz, the interior offensive lineman from Michigan, who could play at center or guard, and that really could help the Chiefs out, especially we've seen what happened in their offensive line last year. Played very well, in the playoffs, but beat up a lot. They definitely could use an interior guy. This could be, it depends on their thoughts on Chris Jones. For the future, he's only on a 1-more-year deal. Can they sign him next year? Because they got to worry about Mahomes' extension. This could be Ross Blacklock, and that was a guy I was kind of surprised I still had on the board, because he could go as early as I was looking at that 20th pick with the Jags. He could actually go up there. So a really good player I still have on the board, among other really good players that can sneak in. Brandon Ayuk's another one. Top of my head before making the mock, I'm thinking Ayuk's going to go first. I didn't have him in here. I look out for the Eagles actually like Ayuk, so if they do successfully trade back at the end of the 1st round, I would look out for Ayuk to the Eagles. I think the Vikings like him as a fit, and I think the Packers like him as a fit. So if that's a guy that I think should go in the 1st round, if he does, those are the teams to look out for there. And then apparently Laviska Shenault's checking out with his medical, so it's a 1st-round talent. He can sneak in. So this might be I feel like we say it every year. Everybody says it every year, but this might be the craziest draft. I think the most unpredictable draft, and I mean that. Usually the final day I make my mock every single year. There's really no thought. Everything just kind of comes to me, and it happened throughout this one like it usually does. But there is a lot of thinking, like, could it go this way? Could it go that way? This trade's going to change this. There's so many different scenarios. It is absolutely wild this year. I cannot wait to see what actually happens, and it could be. It's going to start real early with the trades and everything. So. It's gonna be crazy. It's absolutely gonna be crazy. But again, I'll make another final mock draft with multiple rounds. It's hard to get to multiple rounds at this time of year on the video form here, because I got other videos I want to do before the draft, and we're getting the live stream ready. So the real final mock with multiple rounds will be, and maybe I'll just add to this one, or maybe I'll start fresh, whatever I'm feeling. That'll be on the Twitter. tomorrow at some point. Must follow that Twitter there and subscribe to our channel. Please click that like button. Comment with your mock if you would like. Would love to see those. Yeah, live during the first day of the draft. Plenty of NFL content. We're only a day away, but I still want at least a few more uploads on the way. So hopefully you can join us for all that. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.